For the Capitol Hill Show, I'm Tim Constantine. Our guest today is Balázs Orbán. He is the political director for the Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orbán. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
You know, it wasn't always this way, but in the United States, the American people have a government that keeps religion and government activity completely separate, whether that be in schools, whether that be in governmental programs. This is an item that comes up regularly in our court system determining what can and can't happen. In the country of Hungary, the Christian faith plays an essential role. Explain to people what that role is and how the two intermingle.
Well, on the one hand, the situation is quite similar, just like in the United States. So the state and the churches are separated from each other and they are independent bodies. But on the other hand, Christianity as a philosophy and as a religion plays a very important role for Hungarians, not only from a personal faith point of view, but from a functioning philosophical idea of the state. The Hungarian history, we have a 1,000 years old history. In the medieval period of time, we were fighting for Christianity against the Ottomans. So we were the last frontier of Christianity. So our geopolitical location and history plays also a very important role there. Right now, what we see is you know, if you look on the West, Christian idea, Christian philosophy is still a connectivity point. So how we connect to each other, how Americans and Hungarians can connect and can find a common ground through Christian ideas. And you know, if the West is turning away these kind of ideas, then the connectivity among the Western countries, it's getting weaker and weaker, and for us it's going to be harder and harder to cooperate. So that's why first the Hungarian people, they encourage through their voting decisions the Hungarian government to protect the Christian values and to support the Christian institutions, and on the other hand, in the foreign policy, how we communicate among the Western nation, it has to play a very important role.
You use the term Christian values, and we've often used that here in the United States as well, but we could also call them traditional values.
Sure.
Family, a big part of that.
Sure.
Family has been emphasized by the current administration in Hungary. Explain more about the Family First programs and all that go with that.
Well, we all actually are suffering because there is a demographic decline in every country in Europe and also in the United States. So what can you do? Either you support mass immigration, and then the new people who are coming in, they will solve this kind of problem for you. But there are many people and many political forces, and especially the Hungarian government, which is saying that this is not a good solution because you import also problems, cultural problems, structural problems. So it's not just about workforce; it's about identity and culture. So mass migration is not a solution to the demographic decline. But then how you handle the problem? You have to support men and women if they want to have children. And they want to have children, and the states should be very supportive and not just creating more and more obstacles and supporting relationship forms where children cannot come out from that. So traditional families should be positively discriminated and supported by the states through financial measures. In the last 13 years, we put together a system which is very effective. We spend more than 6% of our GDP through family support programs. And the fertility rate is going up. It was very low, 1.2, when the Orbán government came into power. We went up until 1.6. Right now, there is a very economic hardship in Europe. So the economic situation, because of the war and the energy problems, is not easy. But we have to keep pushing and we need to, in 1 decade time, we need to reach the limit of 2, because that's the fertility rate which makes the society sustainable.
You
This is
mentioned
our
as
goal.
European countries and as the United States seemingly turn away from Christianity, that can impact the relationships, the international relationships. Why is it so important that conservatives and traditionalists stick together globally?
Well, because we are playing together in the international political arena. As I mentioned to you, this is how Western countries should work together. And if we want to remain geopolitically strong, then we should be able to tackle and manage and solve our demographic problems. If we are not able to do that, then the rest of the world, where demography is not a problem, or not in that sense as we experience it, they will overtake us. So this should be the era where the Western powers should be united. But unfortunately, what we experience right now is that the liberals all over Europe and here in the States as well, they push forward some kind of liberal ideology, which is not about supporting traditional families and people who are having children, but other type of relationships and behaviors. The woke movement is very active. Liberal interventionists are pushing this agenda forward from Washington and from DC. This is something which is, according to our understanding, against the interest of the entire West. We should do the other way around.
One of the challenges you seemingly face is much of Europe leans left, and much of the European media leans left. They are not big fans of
No, not at all.
the effort you are making in Hungary. Describe some of those challenges.
This is true, but the support of any kind of government comes from the people. And we won 4 times election with 2/3 majority. And when we have civilizational big questions in connection with migration, or in connection, for example, with the LGBTQ issues, we have these kind of civilizational questions on the table. Our policy is always to ask the people first. So it shouldn't be the politicians who are making decisions and the state and the deep state institutional structures, but the people. So we organized referendums, countrywide referendums, to ask them whether they want to have mass migration, whether they want to have LGBT propaganda or enlightenment in schools for children. And the overwhelming majority of the Hungarians answer no, they don't want to follow this pattern. They don't want to go to this direction, and they vote for us to represent this policy on an international level as well, in Brussels, in connection with our negotiations with Washington. So this is the only way. This is how we can operate, and it gives us strength even against the mainstream media. If you are brave enough and you are supported by the people, then you have to be successful. This is the Hungarian experience.
Let's shift gears a little bit. Much of the world has taken sides on the Russia-Ukraine war. Hungary's position has been more nuanced, shall we say. Explain what is Hungary's position regarding the war and why.
So from the very first moment we condemned Russian aggression, we made the decision that we support Ukrainians. We are border land, so we hosting many people from Ukraine, refugees. We're taking them very well. But our position is also clear in the sense that we see that there will be no winner of this war. There will only be losers. And Europe is definitely among the losers. We were already talking about the economic hardships. The energy prices are skyrocketing. There is a potential risk of escalation of the conflict, even nuclear type of escalation. We are in a neighborhood, so it's not something which happens far away from us. So the situation is very dangerous. This is the reason why we from the very first moment, we are not talking about the continuation of the war, but instead of this, about the peace. So our recommendation is to make to reach somehow with the United States involved a ceasefire and start negotiations then. And then a peace agreement should be achieved, but not only between the Ukrainians and the Russians, but about the whole security architecture of United States, Europe, and Russia. Because if we are not able to solve the conflict from this perspective, then it will remain with us for long period of time, which is according to our understanding not the interest. It's not the interest of United States, Europe, and definitely not Hungary.
In the United States, we struggle sometimes with border policy and determining who can and can't come and how tightly that should be regulated. I've spent time on the Hungary-Serbia border, and it is regulated extremely tightly. You have a very clear policy. You do not allow people to simply come in. How has that changed, if at all, with the Ukraine situation? Because it seems as though there are literally hundreds of thousands of refugees coming. How's that different?
Well, since we had this international blow up in 2015 when 400,000 people from Middle East, from Sub-Saharan Africa wanted to just march across our country, we made it very clear that we have to defend our borders. We made a decision to create a fence on the southern borders. And from this moment, our position was very clear that we can differentiate between refugees and illegal migrants. And who are coming from Ukraine, they are just children and women. They are really fleeing from the war. So Hungary's position right now is very unique because our eastern borders are open for refugees. Meanwhile, our southern borders are still locked because those people who are coming, probably they are coming from countries of origins which are in real trouble, but they are definitely not refugees. They are illegal migrants who want to start a new life in either Hungary or in other countries. So but this kind of illegal border crossing, it's a clear-cut thing that it goes against the law. So if you try to make it illegally to cross the borders of Hungary from the south, then you will not be able to make it. This is the Hungarian policy. It's heavily criticized by Brussels. We are under legal persecution, but we keep holding it.
Final question. Americans are not always brilliant at their geography or their history knowledge in certain parts of Europe. So in a minute or less, if there's one important thing you can share about Hungary, what would that be?
Well, I think Hungary it's a wonderful country, a brilliant country, a true ally of the United States. It's a heartland of Europe. We are there for more than 1,000 years, and the last 500 years was very complicated. We regained our sovereignty finally, and right now we want to have a prosperous life for the next generation. We want to provide them peace and security and prosperity and enjoy the wonderful surroundings of the Carpathian Basin. So I would recommend all the Americans to come and visit us.
Balázs Orbán, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.